Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my Fear the Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 6 review, and this episode is called Red Dirt. And this episode came out on July 2nd, 2017, and since this episode really only had one storyline, I'm just going to go over everything in order, scene by scene, like I used to, just because there was really only one storyline that took place. I might jump around here and there, I don't know, but um, the episode starts off back at Brokejaw Ranch with Nick, um, Jeremiah, Jake, and Alicia, and everybody else there. And Nick and Jeremiah are shooting rounds at pretend targets, practicing their gunshots. And they Nick's worried that Madison, um, t- um, Nick's worried that the people that Troy's patrol mission isn't gonna come back because they were supposed to have been back by now, and Alicia's worried about this as well, and um Jake says that Troy promised him that, and because Alicia's worried that Troy did something to Madison, and Jake tells Alicia that um, he promised him that he wouldn't do anything to Madison. And normally, when he makes a promise to him, it means something because Jake's protected him his entire life. And then Troy's patrol people finally come back, and obviously the feet are all messed up and bloody and burned from walking that long in Mexico. And everybody tends to their loved ones, and Troy wants to talk to Jeremiah privately about the situation that happened with Walker, but um, Vernon, who is Mike's son, who was Mike's father, who was also out there as well, feels like the community has a right to know what actually happened. So Mike just lets it spill. He says that Walker plans to an invasion on this place, and um, he tells the whole community about what happened and what's about to happen. So then it cuts to like the logo, and the actual episode starts off, and Jake, um, and the Otto family are talking about what they should possibly do with this invasion. Um, Jeremiah doesn't want to do anything because he thinks he's dealt with these people before, and they've always beaten him, and they feel like they're fine with doing nothing. Jake just kind of wants to be in the middle. Troy wants to go and do something about these people, but um, Jeremiah doesn't trust them because they tried going out and doing something about it before and nothing happened. And Madison urges Jeremiah to start fighting with them, but he refuses. And then the next scene is Nick and Alicia take Madison into a room, and um, they help her heal up. And I did kind of like this scene when um, Madison looked wondering where Luciana was, but well, or saw that the bed was made, and it was a symbolic that Luciana wasn't there anymore. And Nick reveals that she left in the middle of the night, and um, Madison says that um, Madison apologizes for that, and then Alicia goes to talk to Jake, and we find out that um, and she tries to talk Jake into leading this Wokejaw Ranch community. Um, but Jake says that I'm going to take it over, but they might not listen to my leadership because they might only go by my father's leadership. And he's also worried that people are going to start to leave the community because um, they're going to start to feel like that it's not safe anymore. So then the next scene, I got to remember what the next scene was. Um, well, I don't remember what the next scene was. I believe the next scene was um the next scene. Oh, Gretchen comes into Madison's room looking for Alicia, and she reveals that her family wants to leave because they don't think it's safe um in this community anymore. They were gonna go off to Colorado, um, and Madison says that this is their best chance of survival because she's been outside the real world. Um, she thinks it's that you have a better chance of surviving here if we fight against the zombie apocalypse. But obviously, they don't believe it. So the rest of the episode is built into the exit of um, the um, Tim Boyle family, which is Gretchen's whole family. Um, what ends up happening is Troy meets up with um, Nick, and he ends up name dropping Luciana, and Nick threatens to pretty much break his jaw if he does anything. And what ends up happening is Mike and Kathy go to leave the community, and they take their stuff. And Troy's upset about this, and he says that you're breaking law. You're technically not breaking the law, but because um, but you're just because you're part of this community. But then if you leave, you're just straight out civilians. Um, but they said that they took it up with um, they took it up with Troy's father. They have a right to leave, so they end up leaving. What ends up happening is Madison goes to talk to Jeremiah the next day and tries to urge Jeremiah to fight. And Jeremiah has um, migraines, but I think pretty much we're supposed to have assumed that he was drinking again because earlier in the scene he takes out a bottle of liquor, um, like he was gonna finally start drinking again, because he's pretty much lost um, everybody that originally founded this community, this ranch. He lost Russell in a fire. He lost, I think, is um, I forget the other guy's name, but the guy in the last episode that got his head eaten pretty much by the crow and somebody else. Um, so he's pretty much having trouble dealing with that. That he's pretty much like one of the last founding fathers of this community. And Vernon comes up and tells him that he wants to leave. He said that they've been friends for 30 years, but um, but his family comes first, and he wants to do what's best for his family. So Jeremiah says that they should leave, but Madison tries to urge Vernon to stay by saying that if you stay here, um, that there's no place to go out there, and um, Vernon doesn't listen to her, and Madison wants Jeremiah to urge people to stay here by having them fight against the threat of the Indians, pretty much. And I forgot to mention they had a scene earlier where the Indians took part of their land and burned it. Um, and Jeremiah doesn't feel like he has to convince people to stay because he's given them, um, he's pretty much helped them survive, and they should want to stay because of that. He shouldn't have to beg over and ask them to stay. So Troy overhears all this going down, and when they're about to leave, um, Troy wants to do something about this, and um, you know, he urges the Tim Boyle family to try to stay, but it's to no avail. Jake tries to put a stop to it, and Jake and Troy get into a fight, and um, Jeremiah tries to break it up, and he ends up decking his Troy right in the face. And then what ends up happening is everybody leaves, and the next scene, Jeremiah gets drunk, and I mean, he's absolutely drunk, and he's just upset that his friends stabbed him in the back. Two of them are dead, and one of them, um, stabbed him in the back, and he's like the last of the founding fathers. Um, and he's in Nick's place pretty much, and he tips the table over. He takes out his gun and shoots it just across the floor, and he's just absolutely drunk and plastered. I thought it was actually a really good scene. And what ends up happening is the next day, they see. Um, Actually, I forgot one scene when Troy um, tries to employ people to stay. He's down underneath and says that we have to protect this community because if we don't, we die, and if we don't, other people are just gonna leave. So, um, I like that scene because Troy opened up talking about how Mike was always there for him and never gave up on him, before the zombie apocalypse took place, and he says that Madison, he says that he doesn't want people to leave this community. He wants people to trust in this community. So what ends up happening is then this scene happens, and they see one of the horses that the Trimboyle family left with. So they go to investigate to see what happened, and they see the RV and the trucks just destroyed, and we see that the Trimboyle family has been murdered, and they end up turning into the infected, and Jeremiah puts them down, and what ends up happening is they put down the whole family, and Madison's unable to pull the trigger, and Nick ends up doing it, which I thought was kind of good character build. And what ends up happening is they think Troy did this, but Jeremiah doesn't want to believe it, and he talks about how he doesn't see his kid. Now that he has kids, he doesn't see them as men. He sees them just as his little kids, and he doesn't want to believe that Troy would do something like this. But Madison goes back to the community and brings back the dead families of the Trimboyles and lies and says that the Indians did this, um, and that if they try to leave the community, the same fate that happened to the royal family could happen to you. So the best way to fight against the Indians is to um, is to fight against them if because they don't have the numbers advantage to invade this place. Everybody agrees. And earlier, what had happened is Jake left to try to work something out with Walker, and Alicia doesn't want him to do that. And Alicia buys this, and Alicia knows he's left, so Alicia is going to leave herself to go try to find Jake. Um, and I did like the scene that Nick and Madison had with each other, where Nick's like, "I hope you can sleep well at night," and Madison says, "I can sleep just fine because now everyone has a reason to fight for this place." And then the episode ends with Madison and Troy having a conversation, and Madison tells Troy that he's the one that can leave this place, but you can't have actions that happen like that. You have to look out for your people. And that was pretty much the end of the episode. Overall, I gotta say, this episode I thought was good. It was pretty much kind of the community. You can kind of feel like taking a big hit towards this attack, but you could kind of feel like the community was trying to get their um, stuff together and trying to prepare for this fight. And I kind of like this. It's kind of like the fallen of this great community. So I like this episode. Um, and I think it does a really good job of setting up future storylines in the future. So if I had to rate this episode, I thought it was a good episode. I'm gonna give it a B minus. I thought it was a good episode. Um, I like the stuff they did with pretty much this whole storyline of having this community that looked like it was this great community, but now is fallen. I even like the stuff they did with Troy, the stuff they did with Jake, and the stuff they did with Jeremiah in this episode. I thought it was good stuff. So I'll give it a B minus. That's pretty much my review of this episode. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video in the comments down below and all that stuff. And make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell so that way every time I upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.